Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1985 martial arts action film, Yes, Madam. Now, before I go any further sharing my thoughts on this film, I want to give a special shout out to Yuen for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, Yes, Madam is apparently the second installment in a series of films called In the Line of Duty. I haven't seen any of the other ones, so I can't really say much or anything at all when it comes to how this fits with the other films in the series. And this is not a movie I honestly had any idea even existed until I was requested to watch this. And I could definitely see why it wasn't on my radar. I'm not really into these kind of films that have a lot of tonal inconsistencies and just are a little too bonkers and cartoonish in nature when it comes to the scripts. That being said, I did like it okay. I did have some fun with it. I thought it had some good fight choreography. There's also a couple other bits of action that I did enjoy. And there was a certain novelty to the film when it comes to seeing Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock as partners. But I can't sit here and say that I was a really big fan of it. I think when it comes to your enjoyment of this movie, it honestly depends on how you feel about watching a movie that's essentially a live action anime in terms of its tone and in terms of its presentation. I'm fine with that kind of style and that kind of bonkers craziness with the right balance of tone. And I'm fine with it when it has like stronger characters and doesn't deviate away from the characters I care about the most to characters I don't like. But this isn't one of those instances. So it's just one of those things where it was just kind of there for me. It's directed by Yuen, who co-directed part of the first Transporter film and a film called So Close. And he also worked a lot on uh, other films in the U.S. He started out working, of course, in Hong Kong, and he made his directorial debut with the film Ninja and the Dragon's Den. He directed No Retreat, No Surrender. That was actually his first American film. And he then directed the film like DOA, Dead or Alive, which is based on the fighting game series. He did the fighting choreography for High Risk, a film starring Jet Li, which is also known as Meltdown. And then he worked on Romeo Must Die, Kiss of the Dragon, The One, Cradle to the Grave, War, and The Expendables. Um, so yeah, I thought he's definitely a guy who's kept himself busy in the industry as the years have gone by. And I don't really feel his direction is really bad here, especially when it comes to the fights. You could definitely see his skill and talent for shooting fight scenes and also doing the choreography on display here. I think when it comes to some of the other stuff, like some of the shootouts, some of the car chases, I also feel those are shot in a way that is quite thrilling and exciting and really does provide the most consistent bits of adrenaline and thrills. When it comes to the more comedic stuff, it's just a little too wild and just offbeat and off the wall to the point where it just seems like it's forced. And there really isn't much when it comes to like serious scenes, so I can't really comment on those that much. Also, the direction is pretty standard when it comes to, movement of the camera or the placing of a shot or angles or some of those other things. Like it's not really that complicated or complex when it comes to that regard, which I think is probably fine, especially for this kind of film and for the fact that Corey Yuen, he's still kind of getting involved with some of his first handful of films at this point in his career. Like, he didn't have like a dozen films under his belt at this point. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, all right, work with what you know, work within your own limitations, kind of thing. And the direction, it's fine, it's decent. The script though by Barry Wong, I'm not a fan of. It opens up where it really seems like it's going to be about Inspector Ning or Nig, or I don't know how to I don't know how to say Ing. I don't know how to say the last name. Inspector N. I'm gonna say that. I apologize for butchering the language there. But yeah, Hong Kong, Inspector N, she stops the theft of an armored car by a group of criminals, and that's actually a really effective opening action sequence. That even features some fun shotgun action with Michelle Yeoh. And I thought, like, oh, okay, is this what this film is going to be like? All right, I might like this. But then it starts to cut to these two characters in Strepsil and Aspirin, which my guess is that both of those names are some kind of medicine. Get it? It's funny because they're named after medicines. It's a lame joke if you ask me. Just like these characters, I did not like these characters at all. I thought they were annoying. They were irritating. Really bad attempts at comic relief half the time, and it also didn't help that they're technically criminals. At least that's what it seems like. I might have missed something, but it seems like they're criminals, and I'm supposed to sympathize with them and like follow them and hope that they don't get killed by this bad guy, Mr. Tin, and his men. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. Go back to Michelle Yeoh. And Cynthia Rothrock's character, Carrie Morris, she doesn't really come into play until like I think like 20 minutes into the movie, if not even later than that. And then there's a lot of points in the film where we cut away from Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock to these two dolts, and I'm like, I really don't care for that, and I find those scenes to be boring and just not as enjoyable to watch. And so yeah, they're low level thieves, and they're there because they got a hold of this microfilm that Tin wants because it could expose him and send him to prison. And so Tin sends his henchmen to try to get the microfilm. And of course, Inspector N and her partner, Carrie Moss, get involved with things. And there is some fun to be had. I mean, there's definitely a plot here that's a good setup for action, but too much of the focus is on Strepsil and Aspirin and their friend Panadol, who's actually played by Tsui Hark of all people, the martial arts director. And even the climax, even though it does have some good fights, like even the ending of it is just kind of clunky and just kind of lackluster, not really that satisfying because the main bad guy doesn't even get really defeated by um Michelle Yeoh or Cynthia Rothrock. He gets away with it, and the only comeuppance he gets is he gets shot by I think it was Strepsil. It was Strepsil or yeah, it was Strepsil because he was upset because Tin had his friend Panadol murdered. So as Tin is laughing and thinking that he got away with it, he gets shot to death, and that's basically the end of the movie. And I'm like, okay, eh. And also has issues with the tone because of the Strepsil and Aspirin character and the Panadol character. They're very cartoonish. They're very silly, and so you have stuff with Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock, and it doesn't really appear as if those characters and what they're doing is that silly, other than the fact that Cynthia Rothrock's answer to anything is just to beat the crap out of people, which there's a certain entertainment value in that, oh, you can't get any information out of this suspect. I'm gonna take him into a dark room and I'm gonna emasculate him and I'm gonna cut his balls off and I'm gonna shove down his fucking throat. That's what it seems like. Like she doesn't actually do that, but she definitely does emasculate these poor guys like nobody's business. Just making quick work of them and just beating the ever loving crap out of them. Um, but yeah, it really isn't the best screenplay. The villain also Mr. Tin just comes. I know they do this kind of mysterious thing with the guy, but it really doesn't do that much for me because I don't really care about the mystery of this character. He and his henchmen are kind of forgettable. Not kind of. They are. They're really forgettable villains. So it doesn't help you don't have like a really memorable, strong villain to at least kind of make up for the fact that you got these two goofballs who are kind of ruining the film. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I guess it's supposed to be like the first film with the girls with guns subgenre. So I'll give it that. I mean, it's groundbreaking in that way. Just they should have had more scenes with the girls with guns and less with these two dipshits and aspirin and strepsil. Now the film also features an a adequate cast. I mean, John Shum and Mang Hoi as strepsil and aspirin. I did the performances really weren't the best, but I'm not gonna 100% blame them fully because the script gave them two characters that were just insufferable and mostly idiots for most of the movie. Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock, those two were good, even though Cynthia Rothrock was clearly dubbed. Um, but you know, in the few scenes that they had some good chemistry and they were a good duo. So much to the point where I wanted to see more of them instead of less. Tsui Hark was a straight up cartoon character as Panadol. Sammo Hung, he played a character named Sifu. Um, I don't even remember what his character did. It didn't really have a lot of screen time, apparently. I don't remember much because it's Sammo Hung we're talking about. You also had like Richard uh, N as Weakheart, David Chiang as Sifu's roommate. Um, Tori Yuen had a little cameo as a policeman. The main villain was Henry Tin, played by Jame Tien. But yeah, the acting, like a lot of it's not really the best. I would say that the biggest standouts are Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock. Now, apparently, Yes, Madam was the debut film for Cynthia. This was her first movie. And it was also the first starring role in a feature film for Michelle Yeoh, which I think is pretty awesome, pretty cool. Um, yeah, here's a little bit about the production because this is honestly more interesting than the movie itself. So Cynthia Rothrock was working as a member of a martial arts demonstration team, and there was a magazine called Inside Kung Fu which contacted her team, and they said that D&B Film was looking for a new male lead to play a Bruce Lee-esque character in the movie. Despite looking for a male lead, the team has a few women on their team and decided to bring them in to demonstrate their skills as well. The studio producers were so impressed with Rothrock's martial arts skills that they offered her the role in the film on the spot and changed the lead from male to female. When arriving to shoot the film, Rothrock was surprised of her role. She assumed she was going to be in a traditional period martial arts film. Yes, Madam was also the first starring role in a feature film for Michelle Yeoh. Um, According to Rothrock, yeah, for Yes, Madam, Yeoh took stunt work opposed to allowing a stunt double for every stunt. Trained for her role, Yeoh worked out in a gym for 8 hours a day. She stated that both herself and Rothrock did not want the film to be too hardcore. Stated we wanted the family to come in and watch it. I think that was a mistake. This didn't need to be a family film. Like, why do you think a police action movie it needs to be a family movie? So, according to Rothrock, the airport scene was shot at Kai Tak Airport in 3 nights between 12 midnight and 5 o'clock a.m. The film's finale took 30 days to shoot. Rothrock sustained a head wound during her fight scene with Dick Y. When filming resumed after her wound was stitched up, her stand-in Wee was brought into the film for the shot of Rothrock doing her scorpion kick. Um, so yeah, I thought that was interesting. Some interesting bits of trivia. The fact that it was Cynthia Rothrock's first film role, as well as Michelle Yeoh's, and that scorpion kick was pretty awesome. But apparently, it was like a double that did it because, well, actually, no, it was a double for Wee's character because he was afraid that Rothrock was going to want to get retribution and kick him in the face really hard this time. Um, yeah, Rothrock was very impressive when it comes to her scenes in this, when it comes to her martial arts skills. She always has been. She's such an underrated martial artist. And one other thing worth of note when it comes to this movie is the music by Romeo Diaz. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it blatantly steals music from John Carpenter's Halloween. Yes, you heard that right. It blatantly steals music from John Carpenter from that movie. I shit you not. There are numerous scenes in this film where you hear the stalking music, the dun 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 din 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 din. Like you hear that numerous times throughout the movie, and it's incredibly distracting. It really is, because you're waiting for Michael Myers to show up and pop up out of a corner of a room or, or a hallway or some shit with a knife. You're not expecting, normal everyday stuff when it comes to these scenes. And it's funny because it's not even always used for like a suspense scene. It's used just for like random scenes that have nothing to do with anything suspenseful. So it makes it even more distracting. I guess if I was to mention some other technical things like the cinematography or the edit, by Bill Wong Chung Pui or Pui, or edited by Sek Chi Kong and Quang Chuen Tak and Peter Chuang. Um, Peter Chung. I apologize once again for butchering all these names. I don't know any better. I'm some white boy from America. I'm not cultured in the way to know how to pronounce these names correctly. But anyway, yeah, the editing is fine. And so is the cinematography. Nothing spectacular or amazing, but it's good enough. So really, that's just kind of how the film is. It's like it's not really spectacular, other than maybe some of the fight scenes. And it's not really consistently grand or great. It's just pretty, in the middle. Not necessarily run of the mill, but just kind of there. And it's disappointing because, I really do feel that you could have had a martial arts action classic if you had a more consistent tone, if you took things a little more seriously, you weren't trying to make a martial arts film for the kiddies. And also, if you just didn't have these two leads in Strepsil and Aspirin and make them more of a focus than the two badass female cops that are all over the marketing for the movie. No matter what a country you're looking at the poster or the marketing for. Like, even if you look at the posters from the country that the film was made in and first released in, it has them prominently. It's not showcasing the Strepsil and Aspirin as the real leads of the movie, because they're not cells. Because a lot of people will be like, well, this looks lame. This balding, overweight guy and this other dude. These two are the leads in this action movie. No thanks. So, it is what it is. But I'm glad I saw it at least once, just to see Cynthia Rothrock's feature film debut, as well as Michelle Yeoh's. and just to see the fight choreography and a couple of the action sequences. Those definitely made it worth at least one watch for me. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Yes, Madam. And until next time, thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you later.